There, now I'll be able to
All
focus a
right.
little bit better.
We're good to go. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
So what
right.
do you
So
think? Another
yeah,
half hour or something?
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
totally, man.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Whatever you want.
All right. So do you have any so usually the second part of the podcast is just if you have like any cool stuff to like stories or experiences to share, like, go ahead or
Well, I don't know. Prompt me, like, because I mean,
okay.
I've
So
lived a full life.
okay. Oh, you're good. All right. So how about this? What is the craziest Bigfoot story that you've ever heard?
Oh, there's been a lot of pretty wacky
The
ones out there.
craziest. You're
The
like, I don't know.
craziest,
That
huh?
sounds crazy. Yeah.
There's been a lot of those, man. Like, but a recent one that's kind of crossed my plate is here at the museum. This gentleman comes in here, an older gentleman, and I was talking to him, and he goes, "I know Bigfoot. I saw one back in '72 or '3 or something." So, "Oh, really? Tell me about it." And he saw one up in Zigzag, which is on Mount Hood, supposedly,
Mm-hmm.
and he was outside of a cabin, I remember, and he went outside I think he heard a noise. He went outside on the deck and he looked down the edge of the cabin, and there was this, he says, "Oh, it was moving, it was gliding along, because they have a compliant gait, gliding along, and it probably went 30 feet in like 2 or 3 steps." I said, "Oh, that's unusual. That's okay." And then he says, and then I wanted to see it, and I stepped off the porch on accident, and I fell. And when I
Ooh.
landed on the ground on my ass, I landed.
Mm-hmm.
When I hit the ground, I was transported back in time
No.
200,000 years. And I said, how did you know it was 200,000? He goes, because I saw 200,000 written in the sky in front of
Oh
me. I went,
no.
really? And he goes, oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
And then I only saw the big one that I think was the male, but then I heard the female. She was down in the river, and she reached out to me via mind speak and said,
Oh boy.
"What are you doing here? What are those things in the sky? What are those lights?" And I told her, "Those are stars." And that's how the
Wow.
story ended. I said,
That's
"Wow,
awesome.
that's pretty trippy, man."
That's
I,
yeah.
I've been to a lot of Grateful Dead shows. I've had nothing like that happen to me yet.
That's a good story. That just happened recently.
Yeah, he was in here like maybe a
Oh
month or two
man.
ago.
That's cool. That's
I get a
cool.
lot of a lot of stories that run the gamut, from the vast majority of them are strictly biological. I saw it, it did this, it went away, that's it. But there's some pretty out there stories too, because Bigfooters, just like general society, we run the gamut. There's some very unusual, interesting people
Mm-hmm.
who play this
Mm-hmm.
game alongside of us, just by different rules.
Yeah. So like obviously when someone's in your museum and they're telling you stories like this, like you have to I would assume like you want to like, make sure that like, I don't know. Like how do you react to a story like that when it's told to you in the
Well,
museum?
like, just because I think they're wrong doesn't mean that what happened to them isn't their own truth.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Yep.
playing the Bigfoot
Yep.
game for a long time, and I've run across, like, I'm very good friends with a lot of people who completely disagree with me about what Bigfoots are. Tom Powell is one I always bring up, because Tom's
Okay.
written a couple books, and he thinks that Bigfoots are living inside the hollow earth and composting and like doing crazy stuff that I don't, going through portals and like all that sort of stuff.
Oh wow.
Seeing through the eyes of crows on his prime. I don't agree with any of it. But Tom and I are
Wow.
good friends, and we hang out and we love each other.
Yeah.
And like, he's like my older brother. I love the guy.
Hmm.
Um, and I think I don't know if that's part of my role or anything, but it's something I can model, at least for the rest of the Bigfoot community.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've also dealt with a good number of people in the Bigfoot community that, since I don't agree with them, I'm some sort of enemy.
Yeah.
An enemy, because I
It's
think something.
weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Like, I think those 8 men are like this, and because it's like, really, because I disagree with you, I'm
Yeah.
some, like about an 8 man,
Right.
like you're going to be
Yeah.
hostile to me.
It's
There's
crazy,
one
right?
guy with a huge internet following, huge YouTube following, huge, way bigger than mine, that is advocating physical violence against me. because I
Are you
disagree with his.
serious, Cliff?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
kind of a big deal, man.
It is. It is because I'm easy to find. You just come to my museum and I'm
I
here
mean, yeah,
smiling,
your
you know?
museum's right there. Yeah, like
It
have
reminds me of the Pizzagate thing, you know,
oh
like these nut jobs who think there was some sort of like pedophile ring being run out of the basement of some pizza shop that didn't even have a basement, you
No,
know?
I know what you're talking about. Wow, that like man, I don't know what I would do in your situation. Like if that was me, like I would be like, maybe have some cameras up around the museum, but I'm sure
No, I do. But I mean, I
you
just
do,
keep
you know.
smiling and hope that
Just keep
nobody takes
smiling.
him
Yeah,
as,
yeah, totally.
yeah, I mean, just hope that nobody takes him as seriously as he does.
um
Because I don't have a
oh
problem with him, except that he seems to be kind of an asshole. But other than that, I'm okay with it.
he's got something
Hey,
going
some of
on.
my best friends are assholes. I'm an
Funny.
asshole sometimes, you know?
To someone else we always are, right? Yeah.
I suppose so.
Yeah. How is Cliff from episode 1 of Finding Bigfoot different from Cliff on the last episode of Finding Bigfoot? What kind of how did you change?
Well, gosh, I mean, our whole attitude changed from season 1 to season whatever it was
Yeah.
when we ended episode 1 to episode 100. First of all, episode 1, we were wildly paranoid. Being Bigfooters, we're paranoid people to begin with, but we didn't know what their vision of the show was. Okay. We didn't know what the production company, because really the way TV works is Animal Planet is up here, and Animal Planet gives a giant sum of money to a production company to make them happy. Yep. And we didn't know if they wanted some sort of Kardashian bickering sort of thing, geez, or, you know, we didn't know what they wanted. And so we were very tight-lipped. We wouldn't give them a lot to work with. We were just much tighter, I suppose, is a generally, you know, metaphoric way of saying it. Okay. Whereas after a while, and also after kind of like we had a lot of conflict with the production company season 1 because they wanted some things that we felt weren't honest, you know, and we kind of convinced them to let us do it our way instead of letting everything be pre-planned. Because that's the problem with TV. You can't trust TV. Is the bottom line. Ghost shows, Bigfoot shows, all that's most of it is planned beforehand, and they were trying to do that with us. But the thing is, they hired real Bigfooters, and we kind of knew what we were doing. And we said, you know, you need to put. I remember the Alaska episode, which was our pilot, for example. They were telling us where to go and go Bigfooting based on what camera shots were there. Oh, and we're telling them that's not the way it works, dude. And we're down to our last night investigation, and we as a cast, you know, all 4 of us went in there into the production you know, cabin where they were all staying, the producers, and we basically said, dude, we've been doing it your way all week long and we're floundering. We suck. This is not the way it's done. You need to give us a little bit of trust and let us do things our way. Let us find a Bigfoot, because that's what we spent the last 20 years of our lives doing. And they said, and they were so pissed at us at that point because we're so uncooperative and everything. And they basically said, okay, you got 3 hours, go. Wow. And we went, oh God, all right, go. And we did. Basically, we found a good spot where we can do our calls, and we the biggest net we could throw out with our voices, so to speak, you know. And we got a Bigfoot that night. We just got
That's
lucky.
amazing. The bottom line. So cool.
But they cool. The thing is, they had to put the trust in us because they're LA people basing everything about how something looks. We're Bigfooters. We're looking for the animals, the food, the cover, etc. And they put the trust in us. And after the first season, when we were kind of butting heads with them, they said, okay, they kind of let go a little bit more. And they put more trust in the Bigfooters, I think. Okay. And when they did that, what they accidentally did is that they created a real Bigfoot show, essentially, you know, like, yeah, I'm the first one to tell you, we probably didn't have to take a speedboat to get to the final night investigation. That's television. I get it. You know, we didn't have to do that. Right. But I was also, for me, it fits in really well because I was an elementary school teacher, you know, like I'm battling these 10-year-olds for their attention. I'm going to hook them any way I can. But when it comes to the content of what I'm teaching, it's all going to be 100% there, 100% legit, you know? And that's what Finding Bigfoot eventually ended up being. We made a fun, compelling, entertaining TV show that we never lied about Bigfoot on. If we say we think we heard one, we really did. We could be wrong, but we would never lie about Bigfoot. And I think that's really important. And awesome. You can go back. I don't know if you heard the Bigfoot and Beyond, that podcast, but when I do, if you heard the episode with Chad Hamill on it, it's good. Yeah, he was our executive producer out in the field. Actually, field supervising producer was his tech. And he said it right on the show. It's pretty much the most real reality show he's ever worked on.
Yeah, that
You
was a
know,
good one.
because I mean, we don't know how to do TV, but we know how to do Bigfoot, and they let
Mhm.
us, and I thought that was really cool.
Very cool. Very cool. Uh, what is the most scared or freaked out you've been in a Bigfoot expedition type set, or maybe you've never been freaked out? You know.
Well, I've been afraid alone a couple of times because I tend to do this alone a lot. I
Mhm.
remember I did a 2 week trip to Bluff Creek alone, and I met a few people when I
Oh
was out there.
wow.
I wasn't alone the whole time. And there's a lot of bears out there too. Probably more bears anywhere else in
Yeah,
North
sure.
America, except for like Yosemite Valley or something. But
Mhm.
I got scared one day out there at a place called the Water Spot, and I don't know why. I still don't know why.
Mm.
But I found these tree breaks along this game trail that were pretty
Okay.
compelling. And I also found a 14-inch footprint on that same trip. And I went,
Wow.
oh, this is rad. I'm going to go back to the truck. I'm going to get my camping gear. This is where I'm staying for the next couple of days. And about halfway back to the truck, I got real scared, and I don't know why. I still don't.
Oh,
Maybe there's
cool. Yeah, yeah,
something
yeah. Right.
infrasonic happening, is kind of
I
something I toy
totally. I
with, but
think so. Yeah.
I,
Wow.
I will never know. I will never know
Mm.
why I got so scared, because I just moved like 2 miles down the road and to
Mm.
another like high altitude lake, and there were 3 bears at that location, but it didn't bother me as much as that other spot.
Wow.
Um, so there's that, and then there's some other odd. I look back and there's some times I probably should have been more afraid than what I was.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
when I crash landed in a hot air balloon with Bobo
Oh
on the
my
side of a
goodness.
cliff, like in our
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
New Mexico expedition. I probably should have been much more afraid than what I was, but if you hang out with Bobo long enough, you realize that he's going to come out okay, but it's just going to be a really scary ride to the other side, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of times with Bobs. It's been a little hair raising.
What's the funniest what's the funniest Bobo story? Well, that I guess that you can share because maybe you can't share because it's, you know, legally, but or just is there anything funny that you're like, you know,
There,
classic
there,
Bobo? There's so
well,
much, right?
there's so much just
Yeah.
classic Bobo out there.
Oh man.
And a lot of it, comes out during a Bobo story time, on
It's
Bigfoot and Beyond.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot that I would love to tell, but I'm not so sure I should.
That's okay.
Yeah, like Bobo's waiting, until all of his family is dead before he writes the
Oh,
autobiography,
jeez.
like that kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah. That's
yeah, and it's probably
that's
best,
all right.
it's probably best to keep it that way for legal reasons, etc.
No
So
sweat. No sweat. I totally understand. Totally understand.
I've got a good
Have you
moneymaker story though,
Oh yeah, go for it.
dude,
Yep.
because
Okay.
Moneymaker's way funnier than people think he is.
I
And
want to
whether
get
he,
him on here. I
oh, you
think he would
should.
be yeah, I think it'd be fun, but someday. But
Yeah,
yeah,
he's
go ahead.
great, man. Like he's a really strong, occasionally abrasive personality. I totally
Right.
get it. I
Okay.
because Moneymaker's one of those guys, you either love him or hate him,
Mm.
And since I love him just because he's my road family, and you don't get to choose that kind of
Yeah,
thing,
right.
And like it's just easier to love him than hate him. Um,
Mhm.
he's just so, but I know people may not like to hear this, but he is ridiculously smart. He's always trying to figure out why the Bigfoots are there. And I don't think I've ever met anyone who's better at actually finding Bigfoots than he is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just don't know of anybody else who does it the way he does with a higher success rate. He is very good at what he does, and I don't think he gets the credit for that because he can be abrasive at times because he's so confident and all that other stuff about himself. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, he's done a lot for the field. And yeah, and the BFRO is a database we all kind of go to. Um, but yeah, Matt is really good at what he does, but I don't think he realizes how ridiculous he can be sometimes. Like for example, this is what I wanted to talk about.
All right.
When we went to the Amazon,
Oh yeah.
now Matt for some reason forgot his toiletry bag. Like he didn't have toothpaste, for example.
Oh
But
no.
I'll be darned, he remembered a wetsuit and fins because he was going to go swimming in the Amazon. And he did. We all swam in the Amazon while we're there because we're on the boat. We're living on a boat for a couple of weeks. That's what you do.
Right.
But at one point, I remember coming up on deck, because we're all in this big boat, like maybe a 45-foot boat or 50-foot boat or something on the Amazon. And there are staterooms and all that stuff, usually a bunk in there. You shared the room with somebody. It wasn't glamorous by any means, kind of janky, actually. But when I came up on top deck one time, and there's like all the local people, like our guides and the skipper, and they're all like pointing out in the water and like speaking in Portuguese to one another. It's like, and like
Hmm.
what's, and I kind of, what's going on? And I what they were pointing at Matt. Matt was out swimming in the Amazon with his fins in the wetsuit and stuff like
Uh-oh.
that. And like the local people are saying, he shouldn't be out there, man. I mean, they were saying it in Portuguese and broken English. He
Oh
shouldn't be
no.
out there because there's caimans. And if you don't know, caimans are
Yeah.
crocodiles,
Yeah,
basically. So
totally.
yeah,
Yep.
they're black. The species is black caimans. Like there's caimans out there, and they're
Oh
15 feet
no.
long. And Matt's going,
Wow.
you can always, I don't mind the piranhas because you can just bat them away, you know? It's like, oh my, yeah. He's so hilarious, so funny, just supremely confident and awesome. And he's just hilarious. Like the gall, I guess. Maybe that's not the right word. I don't know.
It's almost like bravado. Like
That's a
he
good term for
seems
it.
like it's like he's like, let's go, like Teddy
Yeah,
Roosevelt,
I'm
you know,
right.
like
You aren't going to convince me I'm wrong. And I'm going to have a better time than you. And somehow or
oh
another, he
man.
survives, man.
Yeah.
Like he's swimming with caimans and piranhas. He doesn't care. So,
Oh, was it do you have any funny any funny stories from filming Momo?
oh yeah, Momo was a fun gig. Yeah, that's Seth Breedlove's
Yeah.
movie, of
Yeah, yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I did the Ohio conference out there at Salt Fork, and then it happened to line up well that
Mhm.
I could just drive out there after the Ohio conference on
Oh,
Sunday
okay.
or Monday or something, and then film with Seth. And Seth's a good friend. Like I love Seth. We do conferences together. That's where I met him. I always knew
Right.
who he was because his work is excellent. But
It is. Yeah.
hanging out with him, like he's in the booth next to me, and it's slow. We got to know each other. You know, he's a
Right,
good
right.
good guy, and he's a very talented filmmaker. And so he invited Bobo and I out to go do it. And so we drove out a couple hours from wherever we were, Salt Fork, and yeah, and got there, and he gave us the silly hat, and you know, I had to memorize some lines, and yeah, it was cold. I'll tell you that. I got sick from that gig, so that's
Did you really? You
damn you,
got
Seth.
colder?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was like 40 something
revenge.
degrees, and my
Oh
my
yeah.
wardrobe didn't consist of a jacket. So, but that
Mm,
was pretty cool. And of course, the Momo costume was pretty awesome as well, and the fog and everything. Yeah,
yeah.
I love stuff like that because it's so out of my element. You know, like I'm not.
True. Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch.
It's a totally
It's
fun
fun.
movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like doing anything unusual instead of like, you know, it's like I believe this is a Bigfoot because blah blah blah. You know, like that kind of stuff. That's my gig, right? But like this is acting, and like if you ever,
Right. Yeah.
you can tell in Finding Bigfoot that we're not actors by those few times we had to act. It's like, well, that doesn't feel real. It's like we're not actors, is why, man. We're just doing Bigfoot stuff. That's what we really
Oh
do.
my goodness. That's
But in
funny.
the Momo thing, I was forced to act, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Uh, the random question: what was your favorite restaurant in Portland? Did you used to live in Portland?
Yeah, I
Or
used to live
okay.
by the airport.
Oh, okay. So northeast Portland.
Yeah, northeast. Yeah,
Yeah,
right
yeah,
off
yeah.
of Sandy, in
Okay.
Park Rose neighborhood.
Oh, that's weird because you went Sandy to
Yeah, isn't that odd?
yeah,
Sandy to
right.
Sandy.
Yeah, that's weird.
Mhm.
We almost moved to Portland, but it didn't work out because the barometric pressure change out there messes with my wife. But
Oh,
anyways,
really?
southeast Portland, we were gonna live there because it's hipster heaven. But
It is.
did you have a favorite restaurant out there that you really liked or?
Yeah, you know, there's a couple really good ones. One of my favorites was Nicholas's restaurant down
Mm.
on MLK, I think. And there's another one in Gresham. Amazing Middle Eastern food,
Oh,
just
really?
amazing, and it was really affordable. And I love Middle Eastern food. Yeah, like falafels and
Oh
kebabs
yeah,
and
yeah.
lamb stuff. I
That's
just
actually good
love
stuff.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah, yeah.
that was one of my favorites. But I'd very often go over to Roscoe's and
Okay.
Montevilla neighborhood and Roscoe's, and they're like they have like maybe 20 beers on tap or so, and like slightly higher quality bar food. It's more of a pub sort of thing. So I'd go over there a lot as well.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and nothing like food and beer.
That's so cool. Man, Cliff, this has been really fun. Okay, last question. So,
Yeah, yeah.
have you ever? So I know Melissa is into like really spooky stuff, and like she told some crazy stories. Have you ever like had any spooky situations like haunted houses with like Melissa, or you kind of like she does her spooky thing, you kind of like stay away from it, or like how
Oh,
does
you
that
know
kind of
what?
work?
I I never really watched like scary stuff until I
Okay.
was like courting Melissa, but I
Right.
wanted her to like me, so I started watching scary stuff.
Okay.
Like even like Walking Dead to me was pretty.
Oh yeah,
That gave me
I can't
nightmares
handle
for a
it.
while.
Yeah. Right.
God, it's such a crappy show now too. I don't know if it piss anybody off, but like
I can't watch
Stormtroopers,
it, dude.
it's terrible,
Really?
terrible. And then
Okay.
this I didn't even see the one that was on this past week, but Melissa said there's stormtroopers in it now. I was like, what's that about? But
Stormtroopers?
yeah, I know,
That's
I don't
weird.
get it. I don't get it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Whatever.
but and now I can watch horror movies. They don't really bother me. There's an occasional jump scare, but
Okay.
Melissa enjoys being afraid. She likes that.
Yeah.
And I look at it from a different eye, I guess. But I've
Sure.
had scary things happen. I've had some ghost experiences,
Oh,
which is
really?
why, yeah, I don't. They're scary. Like the most recent one. Well, I don't know if that's most recent or not. Yeah, it's hard to say. The most recent one, Melissa was gone somewhere. I don't know where she's out of town or something. And I heard something fall upstairs. And like imagine like a top falling, ping, slowly going to a stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is that? Right. And I went upstairs because we live in like a tri-level sort of thing.
Okay.
My office is downstairs.
Sure.
And I went upstairs. I could never find the thing. So I don't know what that was. I'm not going to say it was a ghost or anything. I just think it's kind of weird. I've had weird sounds following me around kind of most of my life. Like every year or two, I'll get a
like
strange
your whole life. Wow.
Well, I mean, I don't remember it when I was young, but I remember it when I was a teenager. And I don't have an explanation for it. I'm not saying is it paranormal or am I just weird? Or I really don't know. I have no idea what it is, but like imagine just a ching, like a chime.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Well, not even in my ears. Like I heard
okay.
that from the other room, and I go in there in the other room, and I go, "What is going? I don't know what this is."
Like
Like picture
someone's trying to
the
get your
the
attention.
dryer stops and makes a noise, like not a buzzing, but like a chime. I've heard that a number of times. I don't know what the hell that's about. But the scariest thing, well, I've had two pretty scary events that might loosely be termed as ghosts, I suppose. One was I finally convinced Melissa to move out to Portland, and she lived north of Pittsburgh in this little town called Sarver. And so I flew out there and then picked her up and met the family and, did all that sort of stuff. And we drove out together, like a road trip. And then we arrived back in Portland on a Friday night, I think. And then say, hey, welcome home, etc. Saturday, we got word that her grandma wasn't doing very well. And then Sunday morning, we got the word like, Melissa, you better come back. Grandma's going to pass away.
Oh, wow.
And so we immediately bought her a ticket. And I thought, well, crap, there she goes. I'm not going to get her back here,
Right.
Because family trauma that soon out, I could leave an impression, right?
Yep.
And so we got her a ticket. And I think, if I remember right, we flew her out Monday morning to go say goodbye to grandma. And then grandma died that Monday. That Monday night, and I'd only met her grandma once via like Skype or something. And the only thing, she was in the hospital and all she had to say was, has he ever been married before? He was like, well, yeah, grandma, I have, But that night and I don't know what time it was, but I was sleeping alone in the room because Melissa was out of town. And the moon was coming in the window, I remember, and I was sleeping on my right-hand side. And the door was in the opposite corner of the room, right?
Oh no!
Something woke me up. I don't know what woke me up, but for whatever reason, I opened my eyes, and I looked, and standing by the door was a woman, in my room, and the woman, and I think it had to be grandma. I don't know, but and I think it might have been her grandmother, just because the figure reminded me of Melissa. So
yeah.
And so this woman was standing there in a nightgown, bare feet, a nightgown, and like she was looking down like this, and I couldn't see her face, but she was looking down, which her shoulders were up and the hair was all over her face, and she was stepping back and forth like this, back and forth right there. And it obviously scared the piss out of me, right?
That's game over, man.
Well, yeah, and I'm looking at it and I thought, oh, wow. All right. Well, I'm sleeping. This is obviously just some sort of, and I rubbed my eyes and I paused for a moment, got my thought together, and I looked back and she was still there.
Oh, that's the worst part.
Yeah. And that's when I got scared. That's when like adrenaline went boom through my body. And I reached and like, well, and I reached over towards the light. I have a bedstand with a lamp on it.
Yeah.
I reached over, and as my hand was going to the lamp, her whole figure, which is, tall, went and like out the door. And just like around out the door. And I went, what?
Oh, that's crazy, dude.
And I basically I called the dog in the room because the dog was out sleeping on the couch or something. And I called Sochi into the room, and, I laid awake for another hour and a half being scared.
Was it like 3 a.m. too? Do you remember the time?
I don't know. It was the ghosting hour. That's all I got to say. I don't know. I didn't happen to notice what the clock told me. Yeah, it was horrifying. It was
crazy.
I mean, I'm okay if nothing hurt me, but it was still horrifying. It was scary,
Ooh, I got the creep outs now, man. Like that's a good one, dude.
Yeah, I don't look into ghosts and stuff, because that, like, I don't understand it. I don't know what they are, and I don't really care. It's not really. I'm not that interested.
Not your
honestly.
thing. That's fine. Yeah, that one story would that would take care of you forever, I think.
I had another
one experience.
The other one was when I was in 9th grade. I got in 9th grade, I got a D in Spanish. And I was in a high school in 9th grade. So it was the summer after 9th grade. I got a D in Spanish. So I went to summer school that year. My parents went on vacation without me, said, up yours, you got a D, too bad. And, so I was staying at my grandparents' house in Long Beach. And I remember I was laying on my right-hand side. Maybe that's the problem. That happened.
That might be it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was laying on my right-hand side watching the clock, just waiting to fall asleep. And then, like, I don't know what year this was, 1984 or something like that. I don't really know.
Yeah.
And it was light in the room because there's street lights, and you can't find dark places in Southern California unless you have, block out, drapes or something. And then all of a sudden, my blankets on my bed were lifted up. And then you can see them draping down on either side, like lifted up. And I went like, what the, I was just like a kid going, what in the world is that? I was like lifted up. And then I felt the mattress being pushed down, like something was getting in the bed next to me.
I've heard that bore. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know what that was. And that scared me, so I was lying on my side. So I just kicked my foot out real fast, and I hit something. I hit something that felt like a person.
Whoa.
Like you're just kicking somebody in the belly, and I heard, ooh, and the drapes drop, or not the drapes, the blankets dropped on the bed. And then I of course laid in terror for the next 2 hours until I fell asleep.
Oh my goodness, dude.
So I don't know what that was either, but those are my 2 ghost things.
That's awesome. Like,
which is why I look for Bigfoot.
Yeah. Stay away from the ghost things.
Yeah. Giant ape men in the woods are far less frightening. So.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh man, dude, Cliff, thanks so much, man. Like, this has been awesome. Yeah,
it's nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love talking about Bigfoot, but it's nice to talk about something else besides Bigfoot every once in a while.
I mean, that's the goal I have through this podcast, is to get it's to get people that don't have a voice to get their voice out, and then people that do have a voice to get the voice out that they don't get out, which is exactly what happened tonight. So thank you for answering all my weird questions. So
my pleasure. Happy to do it.
Awesome. All right. Hopefully our paths cross again someday, and have a good one. Say hi to Melissa for me and Connor.
Will do.
All right.